All right, everyone, welcome back into another fantasy football video. We are going to be breaking down and ranking the top 20 running backs for the upcoming fantasy football season in 2025 and 2026. Let's go ahead and get into it. Running back number 20 for me is going to be New York Giants running back Tyrone Tracy Jr. To me, this is a pretty simple, easy pick. He is a value pick as well. This is pretty much a very safe pick with a decent amount of upside as well. Let's go ahead and break down why. So guys, here are just some stats from his 2024 season. So his role really took off when Devin Singletary got injured, where he ended up having a good week 5 and also week 6 there. And then pretty much for the rest of the season, he was the RB1 there for the New York Giants. He averaged 3.9 yards per carry, also added in 284 receiving yards with 6 total touchdowns. So basically he was a mid-range RB3 the whole season from when he took over, which is pretty solid production, especially for a running back that we're going to be taking top 20. That should be safe, but he also probably is going to be in for a little bit more upside this season as well. The New York Giants kind of addressed the running back situation, drafting Cam Scatabo, but we're really not too worried about him as a player making a big difference. Maybe he can do some short yards work, but Tracy is the player that presents a lot of upside, but also should have some decent safety. We know he is going to be the third down running back for them at the very least. He was a very efficient runner as well, guys, ranked 4th in yards after contact per attempt and 5th in elusive rating among rookies, with a 22.9% of his carries gaining 10 plus yards, which was the highest of the rookie class last year as well. Now, one of the concerns is they did have a little bit of turnover issues, especially at the later end of the season. And he was a little bit inefficient as well at the later end of the season as well. That's a concern. Obviously, the New York Giants offense is also a little bit of a concern, but it should be improved a little bit with Russell Wilson as their quarterback this year. So if anything, the offense should get better. If it does end up getting better, Tyrone Tracy Jr. at his running back rank for me as pick number 20 might be a little bit too high to some draft boards, but again, I think he's an extremely safe pick that also holds a decent amount of upside. Like if he does get used in the passing game, would it be too shocking to see a player with this athletic profile that was that good for portions of the season last year finish top 12? I don't think that's too crazy to see. And again, not that much of competition there for him in New York. So I feel pretty good about him as a probably 3 down running back for us. So my running back number 19 is going to be Kenneth Walker. Okay, Kenneth Walker is someone talent-wise I really love. Watching him on film, he really pops as like one of the best running backs with the football in his hands. The biggest issue with him is really two-tiered. One, he has sustained some injuries, which obviously you need to be active to be helping out fantasy football teams and best ball drafts and just all the different types of leagues that we're in. And also you do have Zach Charbonnet there, who is an okay back. I think he was a little bit overrated coming out of college, and the talent difference between the two is pretty clear. Kenneth Walker is definitely the better running back, and if we knew for sure that he was going to be healthy, I'd be perfectly happy to bet him or draft him as a top 12 running back. But the issue is we do have those concerns of those injuries. And again, the role isn't as perfect or as ideal as we want. And the offense could take a step back with some quarterback issues and potentially just the offense not being as good with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett no longer there as well. At the same time, you could make an argument that that could actually end up benefiting him where he does get more work and more opportunities, thus thrusting him into a safe profile, but also a player that does have that upside to be a big difference maker. The talent's clearly there. Worry about the situation a little bit. A positive for Kenneth Walker is that the Seattle Seahawks did not draft another running back in this last draft. Just that could have been a worry just because of his injury schemes. That does worry a little bit. I really like the one cut play style for him as well. He does get downhill. One of the issues is that he doesn't provide much in the passing game, especially because they do have Zach Charbonnet there who can be productive in the passing game, but maybe they lean on him a little bit more again because of the departures that they've had with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. He is in an interesting spot though, okay? Like he is someone that kind of reminds me of James Conner when he was in Pittsburgh, maybe potentially in his last year and so at the very least, I do think he's going to be at least a reliable RB2, at least when he's healthy. He does have the upside to potentially be an RB1 as well. But yeah, he does remind me of James Conner a little bit when he was in his last year with the Pittsburgh Steelers, where the talent is clearly there for sure. Maybe just takes another team, maybe a new change of scenery to really unlock his potential where he can finally play a full season and really offer a lot of production for him. But at the very least, good spot for him still this year. And I like the ADP. It does feel like a safe ADP. He was one of the tougher players to rank though. So running back number 18 for me is going to be Alvin Kamara. Okay, obviously coming in to the season off of an injury, never like that. He is at that magical number of being 30 years old as well, which is always a concern for running backs generally speaking as well. And he does have over 2,400 total touches as well, which is a big concern. You know, the touches start to pile up and players' production does tend to fall off. I'm going to talk about Saquon Barkley a little bit later on in this video, and you guys will be interested to see kind of the data that I have behind why he's a risky pick as well. Alvin Kamara is going to be an offense that is also going to be potentially a risky and not a good offense as well. He is basically the best player that they have, and he doesn't have that much competition. Like, he should be in for a workhorse workload, but we do worry about just the offense as a whole and him just kind of falling off as well. Again, entering his age 30 season, which is, again, always just a big concern. The same thing with Alvin Kamara, though. At the same time with Alvin Kamara, he should be a pretty productive running back, at least for the weeks that he's healthy. For the most part, again, you always worry about him just kind of falling off as well. But with his PPR production, with his work in the pass game, if you're playing in a half-point PPR or full-point PPR, obviously that does make a difference. I should mention that these are based off of half-point PPR ranks. But overall, I see him being a safe pick, but I do worry about the upside, at least this year. I think he should be a safe pick, especially for the weeks that he is healthy and active. And so the next running back on my list is going to be Jenkins, the rookie running back for the Cleveland Browns. Okay, they did draft 2 running backs, but they really don't have anyone that could potentially be a 3-down running back besides him. I was really impressed with his talent. You watch college football, and to me, watching him on film, he was like, all right, he's clearly going to be a top running back that should be drafted. If he falls into a good spot, I'm going to be extremely to draft him for my fantasy football leagues. Besides Aston Genty, I'm like, all right, he's the most NFL ready type of running back. I just love the way he runs the football. Very quick, very elusive, and very direct with where he's trying to get to. And Cleveland honestly feels like a perfect landing spot for him in terms of opportunity. The 2 places I wanted him to go, because I knew he was being drafted late, were Cleveland and Dallas. He goes to Cleveland. I'm feeling pretty darn good about him as a player. There is some draft capital with him as well. The Cleveland Browns did draft him in the 2nd round, whereas their next option, Dylan Sampson, he was a 4th round pick, so maybe not the best. Sampson could be used maybe more in a goal line work, but I do expect a run-heavy scheme under Kevin Stefanski. He's been top 10 in terms of rushing attempts in 4 out of the past 5 seasons, which is like perfect for Jenkins and his downhill running style as well. You look at Jerome Ford probably will be the 3rd down running back. He's a good athlete still. We can't forget about him, but I think Jenkins is clearly going to be the 1st and 2nd down running back, and he can be used in the passing game as well. He can be a 3-down back, potentially going to be in the running back by committee, but I just love the talent profile from him, and it's just, it might be a little bit too high. You know, the average running back rank for him right now in drafts is 25th. I think that could be right, but I think come training camp and maybe after the preseason, I think he's going to get a lot of hype because, again, he was pretty impressive to me on film, and it's a little bit aggressive. Like, you can get him a little bit later in drafts right now, but he is someone that I'm trying to go out of my way. It is a little bit risky. There is some risk reward with it, but I do think the reward is going to be there for him as well. All right, running back number 16 for me is going to be James Conner, and you might have heard my takes with like Alvin Kamara and think the same applies to James Conner, and it does. You know, both of them are getting older now. Both of them, you know, a little bit banged up. James Conner is obviously notorious for being a running back that can never play a full season. The biggest difference to me between James Conner and Alvin Kamara is not talent. It's just the offense that they're in. The Arizona Cardinals offense should be better than the New Orleans Saints offense. And although people want to make Trey Benson a thing, I just don't think he is. Like, until I see someone emerge that is talented, maybe that does happen in training camp. Until we see it at least on film a little bit, I'm still going to assume the guy that they love in James Conner is still going to be their running back number 1, and he's a player that can be a 3-down running back for them as well. Now, guys, both Alvin Kamara and James Conner to me are picks where if you don't have a running back yet, maybe you're going 0 RB strategy. I do think they are somewhat of appealing running backs there, or if you just want to round out maybe your flex spot or just get a little bit of safety, I think those are the 2 picks that I can get to as much. So it's a little bit different. Whereas like Jenkins, if you're shooting for the moon, he's a little bit of a better pick. Tyrone Tracy Jr. as well. If you're shooting for the moon, that's a little bit of a better pick. Maybe you get a workhorse running back and you pick those 2 a little bit later. I'm fine with that. Or maybe you're taking a running back in the 3rd round, maybe 4th round, and then you want to secure the running back position with a good RB2. That's where I'm drafting James Conner and Alvin Kamara to be safe, useful assets, and players that you can feel comfortable that when they're healthy, they're going to be good to go for you. So to me, guys, that kind of does end a little bit of a tier that we have. These next running backs, at the very least, should be locked and load RB2s for the most part, and should be safe picks. Again, you could argue Alvin Kamara, James Conner, that when they're healthy, they'll be that. And then obviously Tracy, Kenneth Walker, and Jenkins, they're all players that I think have the upside to potentially be RB runs if they stay healthy and the situation is obviously the way I'm predicting it to be and ends up being good. These next running backs are all going to be players that should be safe, but their roles are clearly defined, and I like the spots that they're in. They should at the very least be RB2s. How you rank them will probably end up being a little bit different. Let's go ahead and get into those running backs now. And so running back number 15 for me is going to be Joe Mixon. Now, you could apply a little bit of what I said with Alvin Kamara and James Conner with Joe Mixon. He is getting a little bit older right now, but he doesn't have competition there. He is going to be in a good offense as well. Houston did add in Christian Kirk, which should make the offense flow as well. Obviously, Diggs left, and you got Tank Dell, battling an injury there as well. But they still got Nico there. They still got CJ Stroud there. I'm pretty confident that this offense is still going to be a good offense, one that we want to attack. And Joe Mixon still ended up playing 14 games last season. We obviously would have wanted him to get a little bit more work. Handled 70% of the running back carries and 25% of the running back targets. So all very good with him. He did average 19.2 touches per game as well, which is obviously something that we like. And he did dominate the goal line work as well for the Houston Texans. So he was clearly their workhorse running back. Love that there with him. Was a little bit injured. That is a little bit of concern. But again, we're not too worried about any additions that they made this year. He should be in for a healthy workload as a workhorse running back. He does have a little bit of a receiving floor, does have that touchdown potential, and he is in an elite offense. Okay, the worry is that he is starting to get up there in age, 29 years old. That's a little bit of a concern there. He does have a little bit of an injury history and can be a little bit game script dependent. Obviously, if games get out of hand, which I'm not expecting for Houston, he can get game scripted out of there. If it becomes a pass heavy game, he's not going to be as useful, but he should just be a safe and easy click. He's someone that I'm happy to click on at his current ADP as well. I have him a little bit higher than his average running back ADP rank, so I'm getting him a little bit more, but yeah, he should be a safe RB2, potential low-end RB1 as well. So running back number 14 for me is going to be Breece Hall. I do struggle to rank Breece Hall because I do think he's a talented running back, but I also think he was vastly overrated last year, and obviously that ended up coming to fruition a little bit there as well. I think last year people were underestimating just how good Braylon Allen was as well. Braylon Allen is still there. He's still a young back as well, and he still looks talented. Isaiah Davis actually was impressive as well. The biggest issue with Breece Hall is he could be in a little bit more of a running back by committee, and you got to admit the fact that they are getting a pretty big quarterback downgrade from Aaron Rodgers to Justin Fields. I know some people might not agree with that, but it is. I mean, watch it, guys. There's a reason why the Jets got Justin Fields. They're intentionally trying to tank. There's a reason why they didn't take a quarterback. They're intentionally trying to tank. They probably are going to try to go out and get Archie Manning. That's basically what it is. And that doesn't bode well for the Jets. I'm actually really concerned about the Jets' future here with the moves that they have already made. And so that doesn't bode well for Breece Hall. Maybe even ends up being a trade target. Honestly, I'm a little bit concerned about him. The vibes are not good there for Breece Hall. Now, talking about like Justin Fields as a quarterback could be like a double-sided sword where, yeah, it's going to be poor quarterback play, but because we know there's going to be poor quarterback play, we could expect a little bit more of groundwork, which actually could lead to a little bit more production for Breece Hall. And if you look at kind of Justin Fields and his route tree, we could expect some short routes to go to the running back position as well. So although overall the offense is going to be worse, maybe it does help out Breece Hall a little bit. And I still worry that, Braylon Allen's there could be taken away from the touchdowns there a little bit. Braylon Allen had 47 carries. Okay, and that's okay. He is someone that in honestly dynasty leagues I'd probably be trying to sell. He is someone that I haven't gone to as much in drafts this year because he is going a little bit too high. He's going as running back pick 12 or so and an ADP average of around 33. I'm basically more comfortable getting to some of those other running backs I already listed, Joe Mixon, James Conner, Alvin Kamara, Junkins, Tracy, and Walker, just simply due to ADP. I think Breece Hall is just going a little bit too high. He's at a range where I'm just not comfortable getting to him that much. And so far, given his ADP, haven't gotten to him too much, but I do think that this is the correct rank with 14 for him. If he slides a little bit, maybe I'll get to him a little bit more. Let me go ahead and get into Chase Brown, guys. Chase Brown, I do think, is a little bit of a better pick than someone like Breece Hall in a better offense. We don't have to worry about that. And talent-wise, I would argue they're about the same. Some people might think that's a hot take. A little bit of a concern with him is the fact that a lot of his production really took a big bump with Zach Moss being off the field. So from weeks 9 through 17, he was a top 5 running back in fantasy football, guys. Averaged about 92% of the carries and basically was the only one touching the football for that span. Okay, so there's a little bit of a concern that maybe Zach Moss gets about a 50-50 split again. I doubt that. That is what happened, though, weeks 1 through 8 last year. I think we clearly saw that Chase Brown, this should be his backfield. And with that, I do think we can kind of confidently pick Chase Brown just because of that appealing offense and because of the talent. We already saw it with him already. Now, guys, I'm not someone that's like trying to predict injuries at all, but it could be a concern with Chase Brown. He did have a lot of touches last year, and he is a smaller running back, 5'10", 211. That is a little bit of concern. Can he truly be that good of a running back for us when he's getting that much work? Obviously, we love the workload, but it is a little bit of a concern as well. And so maybe there's a little bit of that injury risk, but for the most part, he should be good to go for us as well. The nice thing about Chase Brown is that we can probably project him to be a 3-down running back again. Could get around 16 to 20 total opportunities per game as well. And he does have a lot of upside to get a lot of touchdowns again in this very potent offense. And he does look like an appealing play. Would it be surprising to see him end up being a top 5 running back again, given the offense? No, but I don't think we can predict that. I really like the rank at 13th, and so does the average ADP with him currently at around 13 as well. So pretty much right on board with everything there. He's a player that I've gotten a decent amount, but not like overly as much. All right, so the next running back for me is going to be running back rank number 12, and that's going to be James Cook. This one is definitely a little bit of a concern because a lot of his production is dependent on Josh Allen being healthy, and I'm not trying to put anything on Josh Allen, but he is pretty risky with the way he plays, and you could argue, given the way he plays, he might be due for an injury, maybe misses a game or two, and with that could end up hurting the elite efficiency that James Cook has had. So James Cook only had a 58% snap share last year and only had a 62% carry share as well. That's where that concern comes in there for me as well. The touchdown volatility as well is a big concern for me as well. He took a big jump last year in terms of rushing touchdowns, but prior to that had always been the biggest concern with him. It didn't really make sense why he wasn't getting the rushing touchdowns given how good he looks on film and everything, and they corrected that last year. So I don't think we have to worry about that too much. And you could argue that at age 25, like this is kind of the prime year of his career, and he could really go off as well. Now, they do have Ray Davis there, who I was really impressed with. Ray Davis as a rookie, he was a player that I was excited for. I thought it was a little bit of a bummer that I ended up going to Buffalo last year. And so that player is always there for James Cook, and it's not like Ray Davis didn't look good, but at the same time, might as well just run James Cook into the ground this year. And so this, and like Chase Brown, yes, a little bit dependent on the offense and maybe, that being as good as it is projected to be on paper again this year. But again, I'm kind of okay looking past that. It is risky, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, you can't bump him too much. Like you could go Chase Brown before maybe Joe Mixon if you want a little bit safer. I think him being over Breece Hall is correct as well. But he is someone that in weird spots, I haven't necessarily gone to him too much because I'm typically able to get to some of the running backs that I'm going to mention in a second here a little bit more so. And so that is a concern there with James Cook, is he's just at a weird ADP where it is somewhat easier to overlook him and pass up on him in drafts. And so here we're going to get into a little bit of controversy with the running back 11 overall pick. And so, guys, one thing you should know about me is I do like both safety and upside. Okay, with running backs and with rookie running backs specifically, they tend to get overhyped and overdrafted. Just in general, look at Marvin Harrison Jr. last year. He was someone that was going in the first round. I'm like, why are we doing this? We don't need to do this. There's safer picks that we can be on that also are going to provide basically the same upside as well. That's what I feel like with Ashton Genty as well. I would much rather get to players like Jonathan Taylor, like Josh Jacobs, like Kyron Williams, that are all going after Ashton Genty, whose production we've already seen be a thing for several of years now. We know they're going to be in workhorse workloads, and we know that they are going to be talented in the NFL, and we know that they are in good offenses as well. Ashton Genty, we don't know for sure if he's going to be in a good offense or not. That is a concern. Now, don't get me wrong. There's so much good things with Ashton Genty with this situation, but these ranks are where I am comfortable taking a running back, and I've just found ways to pass up on Genty. Now, I will say I probably will have to force myself to get to him a decent amount because he is in like an ideal spot, guys. He really is. He should be in for a workhorse workload. Obviously, Pete Carroll drafted him. He does fit kind of that Pete Carroll type of system. He's kind of that type of running back that you would think of when you think of a Pete Carroll running back. Now, it really depends on where you're drafting. This is kind of just looking at best ball drafts. He's currently going pretty early in drafts, guys. I've seen him go as like the fifth, and he is going like as the fifth running back right now. In some other leagues, you could see him go a little bit later as pick, like running back number 12. So we are seeing some differing options there for Genty, but it's interesting. Like Dynasty leagues, obviously you're taking him first overall. redraft leagues, it is interesting there. And so best ball drafts as well. I am mostly just not getting to Gentry again, just because it's a little bit too risky, just because I need to see it in the NFL first. And the fact that people are just not doing that, it's interesting. And again, just comparing him to something like Junkins, who kind of a similar situation. I don't think the offense in Cleveland is nearly as good, but Gentry, again, I love him as a talent. This is more or less just me wanting to go with more safe plays and also plays that a little bit later on are going to hold just as much upside. And so CMC was honestly one of the more difficult players for me to rank as well, because I do think we need to still have those injury concerns for sure. Okay, we did see him play a decent amount in 2024, 11 games, 652 yards, averaged 4.4 yards per carry as well, 4 rushing touchdowns, 43 receptions for 376 yards, all very good there, 3 receiving touchdowns, all very good. But he did miss a lot of time with that knee injury, and we are still, or the Achilles injury, we are still worried about that there as well. We know that when he is healthy and active for the 49ers, he will just be their third down or 3 down running back as well. When he's healthy and active, he easily could end up being the number 1 overall running back in the league, and that would not be shocking to anyone as well. The issue is we do have to factor in a little bit of the injury concerns as well. If we were not factoring that in at all, and that's something that I typically like to do, is just we can't predict injuries, but this is one that obviously prevented him from playing a decent amount last year, and so that is part of the script. Like we have to wonder what's going to happen if something maybe small happens. Are they going to shut him down for a little bit? Like that's all part of it as well. And so although we know that when he's going to be good to go, he will be their workhorse running back, we still have those questions. And besides Derrick Henry, he's the oldest running back that's going as a top 10 or so first or second overall round pick at 29. Like that's just a concern there as well. Now, naturally, these are just situations and players that I do tend to avoid. And, just with how I have him currently ranked, that's kind of what I'm telling you guys I'm doing right now. He's a little bit too risky. And you're going to be crazy when I say this next player that I'm going to be on. I actually like Kyren Williams a decent amount more, and he's going to be my 9th overall running back. So one of the things I find so funny about the fantasy football community is that when they're wrong about a player, they'll just find a bunch of reasons as to why they weren't wrong, as to why a player like Kyren Williams is due to not be a good asset in fantasy football. We saw that happen last year with fantasy football drafts, where I was kind of telling people we need to be drafting him. I don't get this ADP. A lot of people are saying it's going to be Blake Corum. I'm like, I don't even think Blake Corum is going to start out as the RB2 in that offense. It took basically the full season for Blake Corum to take over that role, and he was basically a non-factor. Now, don't get me wrong, Blake Corum did look fine, but there's a certain amount of trust that Sean McVay needs to have in players, and obviously Kyren Williams has that trust. Again, Kyren Williams finished as a top 10 running back in fantasy football. He did miss 3 games. That is obviously a little bit of a concern, but again, we didn't really see any other running back step up and take in his role there from that point on. He ended up having a 78% snap share, 21.1 total touches. He's been top 5 in carries in this Sean McVay offense since he's taken over as the lead running back. And just in general, Sean McVay does tend to be like top 5, top 10 in terms of total running back touches as well. You could argue the offense has actually gotten better for the LA Rams, adding in Devontae Adams and taking out Cooper Kupp. Puka Nacua is going to be healthy this year as well. Tyler Higbee is also going to be healthy as well. And so remember that high touchdown upside that he had 2 years ago, that could be there for him again this year. Now, the one concern that we do have with Kyren Williams a little bit is the fact that he has missed 12 games since 2022, which not all too much throughout the season. It's just a few here and there. You do worry about his size leading to some injuries. You do hear Sean McVay saying we need to give him less carries, but when you get into the thick of it, you just put your best players out there and hope for the best, and he has been doing that. And although I get why people are putting CMC ranked above Kyren Williams and even Ashton Gentry, to me, it is pretty comparable. Like Kyren Williams has the same workload basically as CMC, and the way I'm ranking him is basically saying I'm going out of my way to draft Kyren Williams. Now, there are going to be some players I like a little bit more than him as well, but he is such an easy click where he's currently going, especially if you need a running back. Just feels very safe and does still hold a ton of upside there as well, guys. All right, guys, so this next one is definitely controversial for sure. Okay, Derrick Henry. Okay, the biggest concern with Derrick Henry is a little bit of the offense, given the fact that he is basically a 0 when they get down in games. Now, I don't think we have to worry about the offense really falling off at all. I still think this is going to be one of the best offenses in the league there with Lamar Jackson. I don't think we have to worry about that too much, but there is that slight concern where when they're playing from behind. He's just not going to get that much work. Okay. The thing with it is, though, Derrick Henry is 31. Okay. We do have to worry about the age a little bit. Now, these elite talents, these Hall of Fame type of career players, they typically can last longer. That's basically the biggest difference between them and like a Pro Bowl player. Okay. Devontae Adams is a good example for receivers. Like, hasn't fallen off yet. He's getting older, but he's still better than a majority of the league. And obviously, Derrick Henry, you could argue, still the best runner in the league. But to me, where he's currently going drafted, which is about fifth in terms of running backs, 5.3 and 13th overall as well. I don't know. To me, that's a little bit concerning. I would rather take a safe, reliable receiver or even someone that I'll mention a little bit later on that is a little bit younger and entering maybe the prime of their career as well. If you guys like Derrick Henry a little bit more, I get it. To me, it's starting to become a little bit too risky, especially with him being a first overall pick or so, going around the late first round. It's just a little bit too risky for me. Again, I get it if you guys adjust it a little bit. Now, guys, again, I've mentioned a bunch. I am all about both safety and upside. And so for me, I'm still comfortable getting to Jonathan Taylor. I do think that this is kind of a proper rank for him, honestly. Just he's going a little bit later than this as about running back 8.5, but he does speak to be, let me rephrase that. I do project him to just be a very safe asset. Another sneaky reason as to why I like Jonathan Taylor, besides his talent and besides just, obviously he's been a great fantasy football asset for years and he didn't look like he fell off at all last year. One of the sneaky things I like about him is honestly the fact that he has a clear handcuffed this year in the rookie running back DJ Giddings. I actually think that is a perfect similar style running back to Jonathan Taylor. Now, I'm not worried about him taking over any work from him, but the simple fact that you could draft Jonathan Taylor pretty early and then get DJ Giddings like extremely late in drafts, to me is extremely appealing, especially maybe in for best ball drafts as well. If Jonathan Taylor gets injured, you are still getting about a probably running back 2, maybe 3, maybe flex option in DJ Giddings. If Jonathan Taylor were to get injured, that's how much I like DJ Giddings as well. So the simple fact that when Jonathan Taylor is healthy and active, he is going to be a workhorse running back. We know that. And also kind of given the fact that Anthony Richardson struggled last year, as well as the fact that they brought in Daniel Jones, they know who their best player is this year at least. It's Jonathan Taylor. They need to give him the ball. They need to give him that workhorse workload as well. I don't think we have to worry about his injury risk this year. He has been pretty injury prone, though, missing 15 games since from the 2022 season to the 2024 season with multiple injuries, thumb, ankle, heel. Don't exactly love that, but to me, none of those are very much like wear and tear concerns at all. They're just injuries that occur, and he's gone over them. And I think heading into the season, he should be looking pretty good spot for him. And again, I think like comparing him to maybe Breece Hall is comparable a little bit, but I'm much more comfortable getting to JT in the spot. So the pick last year that I was begging people to make was Josh Jacobs, who was going in some cases in best ball drafts. I remember getting him in the 6th round in one draft, which was pretty crazy. He was likely going in the 5th, 4th, and 3rd rounds a lot as well last year. And I'm like, this is a guy that clearly should be a 2nd round pick where he's fallen into a better offense. He's going to be a workhorse running back for them. And again, this goes back to the point of people just overvaluing rookies in general. People are like, oh, Marshawn Lloyd is there. He's going to take over some of the work for Josh Jacobs. He might even be better than Josh Jacobs. Just stupid shit that people say from rookie players where they're just hyped. It's a lot of recency bias. That's a lot of what goes into these ranks, especially for rookies. And I do think the point where I had with Jonathan Taylor does apply though for Josh Jacobs as well, where I think Marshawn Lloyd is actually not a terrible handcuff to get. And because people were maybe jaded by the fact that they were hyping up Marshawn Lloyd a lot last year, they're kind of blaming the player now instead of themselves for just being a little bit overhyped on him, where I'm saying like he could be a good handcuff. Like you can draft Josh Jacobs early and take Lloyd later, maybe in best ball drafts, maybe in redraft leagues, and be sitting pretty there. Like it's not a bad route to go with how late he's going, Marshawn Lloyd that is. Like if he is going to be the RB2 there, I do think he will be. Now I will say Savion Williams being drafted by the Green Bay Packers to me is more of an indication that he could be used out of the backfield a decent amount, which could take away from some of the passing down work that Josh Jacobs got. That is a little bit of concern, and maybe he does get used in some weird goal line situations as well. We see Jaden Reed get that a decent amount throughout the year as well. So I could see that being a factor as well. Now, he did end up getting 35 receptions and 342 receiving yards in last year. He did have a 30% route participation as well, including about an 8% target share, which were all career highs for him, which is obviously very well. But again, I think that's part of the reason as to why they drafted Williams in the 4th round. He did have 16 total touchdowns, guys, as well, 14 rushing, 2 receiving touchdowns as well. You could argue that he's due for a little bit of a touchdown regression, but to me, again, the whole point as to why they brought on Josh Jacobs was the simple fact that Jordan Love had so many red zone touchdowns and specifically goal line touchdowns because they couldn't punch it in through the running game. And so I don't really see that regressing too much. It should regress. Obviously, that's a pretty high number, 16 total touchdowns. You can give him 12, and I would still draft him where he's currently going. So you can get him in the late 2nd round, 3rd round as well. I feel pretty comfortable getting both him and Kyren Williams in the 2nd and 3rd round there as well. Now, guys, that does kind of end that tier that we were just on, kind of those RB2s to RB1s, those players that you are pretty comfortable drafting, especially where they are going. Now we're going to go ahead and get into the RB number 1s. You guys will be a little bit interested in some of the players there. I'm sure you can just already know in your head maybe who I'm thinking that I'm on a decent amount that maybe the industry isn't on as much. Obviously, you guys will see that in just a second. The 5th ranked player here is one that I'm simply concerned about injuries. A lot of people are going to draft him higher than this, and this is pretty much my way of saying where he is currently going. I am not getting there with him because of the injury concerns, and that's pretty much it. I'm more comfortable getting to some of the other players where they're getting drafted as well, and let's get into that. And so that running back is going to be Saquon Barkley. Okay, he's basically going as the consensus 1st overall running back as well. So having him as my 5th overall running back is very much a hot take. I'm not saying that he shouldn't be treated as like a 1st round running back. I like safety again with my early picks, and I just don't think he screams that. I'd much rather get to Bijan Robinson. Jahmyr Gibbs, we can talk about the concerns with him a little bit, but I actually like Devon Achane and Bucky Irving a little bit more as well, especially where they're currently going drafted. Okay. And so I just think Barkley is a little bit overvalued given his injury concerns as well. And also given the fact that we don't have like an easy running back handcuff for him. It would probably be a running back by committee for him as well. That does bake into a little bit of the safety there as well. So let me go ahead and talk about what I mean by his injury concerns. So guys, here is a chart that I put together for the running backs that have had around the same workload as Saquon Barkley in terms of their production the following season. So the simple thing that I should just call out is that they just typically fall off a little bit with their production. Okay, the production does take a typical hit. The only players that like did better the next year were Melvin Gordon and then also Ezekiel Elliott, where they got a little bit more touchdowns, a little bit more yards as well. A lot of the players tend to get injured as well. They tend to miss some games, which does enter into why they're not having as good of a year. But typically speaking, they're just not as productive. So we look at Adrian Peterson. The next year got injured and just didn't provide as much production. Devonta Freeman going back as well. Saw about a 5% drop in his total yards from scrimmage. Zeke, 40% drop. David Johnson. Like we can go on through the list. Saquon Barkley's in that mix as well. His following season after a big workload in 2022, about a 25% drop in his yardage total as well as Zeke. There's just a lot of players, Saquon Barkley again, and so that obviously doesn't bode well for Saquon here, especially the fact that he played deep into the playoffs as well. His offseason and recovery is just not going to be as much there. So I think expecting his production that he had last year is just dumb. I think we want to be targeting those players that did not have as big of a workload and are still younger running backs as well, still maybe entering their prime rather than potentially starting to leave their prime. And again, I'm not saying that was Saquon, but I do think the risk concerns are there with him. And we see this time in and time again where players that are coming in off of a high workload tend to struggle the following, relatively speaking. So here's the underlying data, guys. Players that have had around 350 to 400 total touches in a season tend to have a fall off in their production the following season, tend to fall off about 37%. Okay, that's a big decrease in terms of their total yards. And they typically average about 4.4 fewer total touchdowns in their previous seasons as well. Okay, there isn't a big injury like drop off in terms of them missing a big amount of time, but typically speaking, it's a few games that they're missing there as well, which then obviously impacts their workload from the previous season as well. And so I think drafting Saquon Barkley at his peak is just a mistake. So guys, my 4th overall running back is going to be Devon Achane. Now I will say for standard leagues that drastically shifts, like I would much rather be on Derrick Henry over Devon Achane, but in half point PPR and full point PPR leagues, I'm actually pretty comfortable getting to Devon Achane. So The concern that I had with the Miami Dolphins is that they might address the running back position in the draft, and they kind of did in Ollie Gordon, who probably will be their goal line running back. Like Devon Achane is not going to be that for him. But where Devon Achane might make up for his goal line work is just the big splash plays that he has, and just the fact that he gets a lot of work in the receiving game as well. For a smaller running back, there is a little bit of concerns that he could end up getting injured as well. He is a 3-down running back for the Miami Dolphins. We know that. We do like the way that Mike McDaniels has used him in the offense. He uses him in unique ways, kind of like Tyreek Hill, where he moves him around to get the best matchups possible. Another concern is obviously Tua. Okay, they did address the quarterback situation. Bringing in Zach Wilson, who to me, not a bad backup to have. Okay, he is a talented player. The offense isn't going to completely fall off the rails it has the previous season when Tua has gotten injured, if he does end up getting injured, which is obviously a big concern. And again, I think that's negated a little bit there with Zach Wilson being there. For small back guys, Devon Achane ended up commanding a 60% running back share, and then about a 26% target share as well. He averaged about 15 touches per game, and he ranked second among running backs in terms of routes run, and ended up leading running backs in receiving yards per game with about 30.3. Now, a concern there with Miami as well would be that the fact that the offensive line play really took a big dip last year, but again, that was kind of worked around there for Devon Achane, getting him involved in the passing game there as well. Now, it is worth calling out that they still have Jalen Wright there, who I really like Jalen Wright. I actually thought he was a very comparable player to Devon Achane, but he just didn't get used much last year. And then they do have Ollie Gordon, who was a 4th-round pick, who they do like. He's a bigger back, who I do think could be a goal line back as well. So again, guys, part of this rank is a little bit due to where you can end up getting Devon Achane. I kind of do view him as like the player that if everything goes equal for him, he doesn't get injured, and Tua doesn't sustain a big injury or anything like that, I think he will end up as a top 5 running back. And where he's being drafted in the 2nd round, I'm like, that's pretty crazy. I'm happy to get to Devon Achane a decent amount. And so with that, I don't think there's very much risk in getting to Devon Achane where he's currently being drafted as well. I'm comfortable getting to him, especially in PPR leagues. So like a site like DraftKings, if you guys are doing best ball drafts on, I'm very happy to get to him in the 1st round. And I don't think there's much risk there. Okay, so running back number 3 for me is going to be Jahmyr Gibbs, and he is not without his concerns as well. Obviously, David Montgomery was injured for portions of last year, and that obviously unlocks a big potential for fantasy value for someone like Jahmyr Gibbs. Now, David Montgomery is still going to be there, obviously, and so David Montgomery is not a slouch. I would say Gibbs is clearly their running back number 1, but Montgomery is still there, still going to get a big amount of work in that offense. And given the fact that they're also going to be without Ben Johnson as well, and also Aaron Glenn, like both of those are 2 big factors there, I think Detroit's going to actually have a pretty big fall off here this season. I actually don't have that much faith in them losing those offensive coordinators. And so with that, there is a good chance that Gibbs and David Montgomery both fall off in terms of their production. Obviously, having 2 running backs at that high level of production continuously going off, that's not sustainable. That is not something that has really happened in the NFL all too much, especially for long periods of time. And so I do agree that Gibbs should be the running back number 1. I'm still ranking him as the 3rd overall pick. If David Montgomery was not there, I'd be like, yeah, we're just firing him off. He's going to be my 1st overall pick, and I'm going to feel very confident about that. Again, there's just concerns there. And so this kind of want to bring it up, kind of speaks more volumes as to probably the next player that I'm going to be on, and kind of why I like Devon Achane, Jacobs, JT, Kyron Williams a little bit more as well. Kind of my priority ranks here is because at their ADPs, there's just not that much concern with them, and there's still a lot of massive upside. There are certainly concerns here for Jahmyr Gibbs where he could be splitting the work as well. And again, that offense just probably not going to be as good with Ben Johnson no longer being there, and with the defense maybe not being as good as well. You do worry about maybe potential game scripts and whatnot, maybe games being a little bit different. And so I do think that his outlook has changed this year compared to previous years. I'm poo-pooing on him a little bit here. I have him as the 3rd overall pick. I'm just saying there are concerns there, but obviously do love his pass catching ability, touchdown upside. He's an elite talent, and I still think we should be drafting him in the 1st round. I have him as the 3rd overall ranked running back, and that's what people are drafting. And so that brings us into my running back number 2, Bucky Irving, guys. And I get that you're not going to draft him as the 2nd overall running back. Okay, that's not exactly the point of the ranks here. This is more about how I potentially see them finishing the season and really how I'm going about prioritizing them as picks. And so where Bucky Irving is currently going drafted, which is around pick 22 overall, and it's the 9th overall running back, that gets me very excited to pick him because he was an elite talent, I thought, coming into last year as well. I had a lot of concerns with Rachaad White, for an example, because of that. Also, Sean Tucker was there as well. And the fact that Bucky Irving came in and not only was the RB1, but offered a workhorse workload as well with that, especially towards the end of the season. They just couldn't leave him off the field. That just bodes extremely well for him this season. And I know they lost their offensive coordinator last year, but they added another offensive weapon with Amika in the draft as well. So I don't think that offense can fall off too much. Baker's still there. Mike Evans still there. Chris Godwin's still there. They got a lot of receiving weapons in there that should keep the running game going as well. He should still be an extremely efficient runner. And you just watched the film on him. It was spectacular. Honestly, my favorite film watching last year was Bucky Irving's film as well. Probably a little bit of confirmation bias going into that because I decently was hyping him up last year. But again, given where he's currently going draft, I just loved him as a pick. And so, yes, you do worry about a new offensive coordinator coming in and potentially not using his talents in the way that they were able to be utilized last year. I'm not overall too concerned with that. Guys, after week 12, he averaged 22.4 opportunities per game, okay, which was obviously great. He was top 5 last year in yards per touch with 6. He had a 36% missed tackle rate, which was the highest in the NFL as well. Now, sure, some of the concerns are his size a little bit, the draft capital. They only spent a 4th-round pick on him. You do worry about that a little bit. The offensive line play really wasn't all that good for Tampa Bay last year, but it was just clear that Bucky Irving was such a solid, useful running back last year, and I just think we should be going out of our ways to draft him. That's kind of the point of putting him here as 2nd overall pick, is to tell you guys, draft Bucky Irving and draft him with a lot of confidence. And so my number 1 overall running back is obviously going to be Bijan Robinson. I mentioned a bunch throughout this video that I do value both safety and upside, and he is presenting that for us, guys. It honestly just feels like the safest pick we can be on. It's not too much of a hot take. He's going as the 3rd overall pick. He is going as running back 1.3, pretty much tied with Saquon Barkley as well. But again, given the concerns I have with Barkley, I am knocking him a little bit. I don't think we had those same concerns with Bijan Robinson, who really is kind of entering the prime season of his career as well. We're not too worried about Tyler Algier or any of the other backups. He is handling about 80% of the workload there for running backs. And the offense could only get better, honestly. Kirk Cousins was pretty bad last year, and I thought Michael Penix came in and looked pretty good. And so I'm pretty comfortable getting to Bijan Robinson as the 1st overall running back pick. Now that's going to do it for this video. Make sure to give a like and subscribe to the channel. That does help out a bunch. Going to be putting out a lot more fantasy football coverage here for you guys. So again, give a like and subscribe. That does help out a bunch. Thanks for watching, guys. Good luck with all your drafts, best ball drafts, and everything in between. Thank you for watching. Again, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And as always, let's keep cashing.